The sprawling city of Teotihuacan once rose from the Valley of Mexico like a living god, its grand pyramids piercing the sky, its streets pulsing with thousands of souls at its peak. This ancient metropolis was one of the largest urban centers in the world, home to a civilization that wielded immense power and influence. But beneath the surface of its shining facades and monumental temples, a darker truth lay hidden, one of fear, violence, and secret rituals that shaped its destiny. Teotihuacan's sudden decline remains one of history's most haunting mysteries. Once vibrant and thriving, the city was abandoned and left to crumble, leaving behind ruins filled with eerie silence. Archaeological discoveries reveal a society ruled not only by political strength, but also by brutal control enforced by shadowy cults. These secretive groups operated behind closed doors, wielding terror as a tool to maintain order and devotion. The cult's influence extended deep into the city's social fabric. Their rituals were woven with symbols of death and rebirth, demanding obedience through fear. Victims of their rites were often sacrificed, their fates sealed in ceremonies meant to renew cosmic balance. The ruling elite seemed entwined with these cults, using their terrifying practices to enforce loyalty and crush dissent. Power in Teotihuacan was a complex game, one played with knives, blood, and whispers in the dark. These cults created an atmosphere where faith and fear merged, controlling minds and bodies alike. Their rise set the stage for extreme rituals that echoed throughout the city, leaving marks not just on stone, but on the collective psyche of its people. Understanding the Lost Empire means delving into the chilling world of these cults where power demanded violence, and belief became a weapon. As the story unfolds, the shadowy rites practiced on the city's great pyramids reveal the unsettling price paid for power, and the terrifying cost of faith in an ancient world ruled by secret terror. At the heart of Teotihuacan stood the colossal Pyramid of the Sun, a towering altar where the sacred and the terrifying intertwined. Here, the cults believed blood was more than life's essence. It was the thread holding the universe together. To maintain cosmic balance, they offered human lives in rituals soaked with reverence and horror, convinced that each drop of spilled blood was a vital gift to the gods who controlled sun, rain, and fate. The rituals were chilling in their precision. Victims, often prisoners of war, slaves, or chosen youths, were led to the pyramid summit, their future sealed by an unyielding faith. Some were adorned with ritual masks and painted bodies, their transformation from human to sacrificial, offering marked by solemn chants and the weight of unseen eyes. The brutal methods of sacrifice ranged from heart extraction to being buried alive, acts meant to send the purest possible offering to the deities. Each sacrifice was a violent dance with death, believed to nourish the gods and secure prosperity for the city below. Blood spilled on the stone steps was thought to renew the earth, calling forth crops, rain, and protection from chaos. The cult's conviction in this cycle was absolute. Without such offerings, disaster was certain, and the fragile harmony of the cosmos would unravel. Yet, the terror ran deeper than belief. Sacrifices served as a grim reminder of power, a public display of control designed to instill obedience through fear. The victims' suffering echoed the cult's message. Submission was survival, resistance meant death. This ritualized violence bound the people to their rulers and gods, creating a society where worship was inseparable from horror. The Pyramid of the Sun stands today as a silent witness to these dark ceremonies, monuments not only of architectural genius but also of a brutal faith where life was willingly consumed to feed the gods' hunger. In this world, death was not an end but a necessary sacrifice, a terrifying price paid for a favor and protection. In the depths of Teotihuacan's hidden cults, the jaguar was more than an animal. It was a symbol of raw power, mystery, and the terrifying forces lurking beyond human understanding. To become a member of the Jaguar cult was to step into a shadowed world where pain and fear were gateways to transformation. Initiations were brutal tests, designed to strip away the familiar self and rebuild the Nishit as a bridge between the living and the spirit realm. The rites began with isolation. Initiates were removed from their communities, confined in dark, silent spaces that pressed against their minds like a physical weight. Deprived of light and sound, many faced the rising panic of loneliness, their thoughts twisting into visions of shadowy beasts and whispered threats. This psychological torment was intentional and unrelenting trial to fracture the old identity. Pain followed isolation. The Jaguar cult believed suffering purified the body and soul. Initiates endured cutting, burning, and ritual scarring each, wound a mark of death to their former selves, and rebirth into something otherworldly. The Jaguar's fierce claws and stealthy prowling were called upon through chance, imbuing the initiate with strength and ferocity. Yet this power came at a cost, as the boundary between reverence and torment blurred into a continuous struggle. Symbolic death was the climax. Through intense rituals, the initiate was forced to confront their deepest fears, surrendering their humanity to embrace the Jaguar's spirit. This psychological death was as terrifying as any physical pain. Pushing minds to the edge of madness, those who emerged were believed to possess new powers, heightened senses, his spiritual connection to ancestors, and the ability to navigate both the physical and unseen worlds. This transformation shaped not only individuals but the very fabric of the cult's influence. Members moved silently among the city, their jaguar spirits striking fear and awe. The cult's blend of brutality and mysticism created a force both feared and respected, enforcing obedience through the promise of transcendence and the threat of spiritual annihilation. The Jaguar cult's initiation was more than a test, it was a rite of passage into darkness, where fear became power. From these shadows, the cults extended their control with punishments designed to break the will of the unfaithful, binding loyalty through terror and pain. In Teotihuacan's cults, loyalty was enforced not just through faith, but through fear. Made flesh, disobedience and betrayal were met with punishments so brutal they echoed through the city like warnings etched in pain. These punishments were public spectacles, harsh lessons meant to shatter the spirit and warn all who might question the cult's absolute power. Public humiliation was the first weapon of control. Offenders were stripped of dignity before the masses, forced to wear degrading marks or garments that branded them as traitors. They were paraded through crowded streets, their shame amplified by jeering crowds and ritual chants that reminded everyone of the cult's reach. This spectacle broke down not only the individual's pride, but also sent a clear message. Defiance meant becoming an outcast, visible and vulnerable to scorn. For those deemed more dangerous or defiant, mutilation was the cruel next step. Fingers, tongues, or ears might be severed, permanent reminders of disobedience. These acts of physical destruction served a dual purpose, punishing the individual and symbolizing the cult's control over body and well. The mutilated were left as living warnings, their injuries a testament to the cult's merciless grip. Torture went beyond pain to become psychological warfare. Methods varied but were designed to break the mind as much as the body. Prolonged exposure to isolation, sensory deprivation, or physical torment. Victims were often kept alive long enough to suffer deeply, their screams and despair echoing through ritual chambers and public spaces alike. This cruelty instilled terror, reinforcing obedience through dread. These punishments were woven into the cult's strategy of social control, ensuring that fear kept the population in line. They maintained order not through kindness or justice, but through relentless cruelty. The cult's unyielding authority was carved into flesh and memory, binding the community with terror as much as with belief. As power was enforced through pain and submission, The cults also communicated their secret knowledge through symbols murals hiding dark messages about death and the afterlife. Revealing the true depths of their beliefs, Teotihuacan's walls speak in shadows and colors, their murals etched with symbols that unlock the secret world of the city's cults. These vivid images go beyond decoration. They are coded messages, revealing the cult's deepest beliefs about death, power, and what lies beyond the mortal realm. Each brushstroke carries the weight of a civilization obsessed with controlling the boundary between life and the afterlife. The murals depict twisted figures, skeletal forms, and monstrous beasts, creatures that seem to straddle worlds of the living and the dead. These images reveal a mythology where death is not final but a passage, a transformation shaped by ritual suffering and divine judgment. Scenes of sacrifice intertwine with symbols of rebirth, suggesting that pain was both a punishment and a necessary step toward transcendence. Central to these artworks are recurring motifs, serpents winding through the underworld, jaguars embodying fierce guardianship, and eyes watching eternally. These symbols spoke to the cult's conviction that the spiritual world was alive and ever-present, demanding respect and offerings. Control over death meant control over existence itself. And the murals made this truth undeniable. The imagery also reflects a dark hierarchy, gods and priests presiding over life and death. By power absolute and terrifying, the suffering of the faithful was etched in stone and pigment, reminders that obedience was demanded not just in life but beyond it. The murals were warnings and prayers, binding the community to a shared fate ruled by unseen forces. Through these cryptic symbols, the cults projected a world where suffering and sacrifice intertwined with hope and fear. The murals stand as haunting relics of a civilization that lived in the shadow of death, forever seeking to control the invisible threads that bind the living to the afterlife. The very rituals that once gave Teotihuacan's cults their terrifying power also sowed the seeds of their destruction. The brutal ceremonies, strict hierarchies, and relentless demands for obedience created fractures within the city's fabric. Fear, once a tool for control, became a poison that spread distrust and resentment among the people and even within the cults themselves. Extreme beliefs hardened into rigid dogma, leaving no room for dissent or mercy. Those who once followed out of faith began to question the cost of such cruelty. Rebellion quietly brewed beneath the surface whispers of defiance that grew louder with each act of violence and punishment. The city's unity, once its greatest strength, unraveled as fear turned inward, splitting rulers from followers and cult from community. Violent clashes erupted in the streets, temples burned, and sacred spaces were defiled. The Great Pyramids, once centers of divine power and sacrifice, became symbols of a fractured empire losing its grip. Abandonment followed, families fled, neighborhoods emptied, and Teotihuacan fell silent, swallowed by the shadows it had long worshipped. The collapse marked not just the end of a civilization, but the fall of a terrifying system that had commanded life, death, and faith through cruelty and fear. The cult's legacy remained in ruins and whispers, haunting echoes of a world where power was paid for in blood and terror. As Teotihuacan's darkness faded, the echoes of its rituals and beliefs continued to resonate, reminding future generations of the fragile line between devotion and destruction, and the human cost when fear becomes faith. Across the wild, rugged landscapes of the Balkans, the Thracians carved out a world both feared and misunderstood, known for their fierce warrior spirit. They were a tribe where strength and survival intertwined with deep, enigmatic beliefs. Outsiders whispered tales of their brutality, warriors who fought with unmatched ferocity, their bodies often adorned with tattoos and scars, each mark telling a story of battles won or rituals endured. The Thracians lived by a code that balanced honor with terror, their lives shaped by rites that seemed strange, even savage, to those who observed from afar. their villages, scattered among dense forests and rocky hills, echoed with the sounds of war drums and wild celebrations. Yet beneath this violent surface lay a spiritual world filled with mysteries. The Thracians believed that gods walked alongside men, often demanding blood to appease their wrath or to bless their conquests. These gods were not distant figures, but fierce entities who could shape life and death in their grasp. The tribe's warriors didn't just fight enemies, they fought for the favor of these powerful spirits through rituals that combined pain and sacrifice. Some rituals were known only to the chosen few, cloaked in secrecy and steeped in fear. The Thracians believed that to gain true strength, one must embrace both physical pain and spiritual transformation. Warriors would pierce their own flesh or drink hallucinogenic brews, entering states that blurred the line between man and beast. These ceremonies, terrifying to outsiders, were sacred acts of courage and devotion. They bound the tribe together in a shared destiny, where the boundary between life and death, war and worship, was razor-thin. This blend of fierce combat and cryptic spirituality made the Thracians one of the most feared tribes in the ancient world. Their names survived in legends as barbarians. Yet behind the brutal exterior lay a culture where honor demanded terrifying sacrifices. To understand the Thracians is to step into a world where the darkest rituals were as vital as the sharpest sword, where belief and blood were inseparable. The warrior's path was not only about battle, but about the rituals that shaped the very soul of the tribe. Their extreme rites of blood and spirit set the stage for the brutal and shocking customs that defined the Thracians' place in history. In the world of the Thracians, blood was more than a sign of life, it was a sacred link between warriors and their gods. Every wound, every drop spilled on the battlefield, was believed to carry power. To shed blood was to honor the spirits that governed fate, courage, death itself. For the Thracians, war was not just combat. It was a divine ritual where sacrifice proved a warrior's loyalty and worth. Before battle, warriors prepared through rites that could shock even the fiercest outsiders. Some would carve deep slashes into their own bodies, bleeding openly as an offering to the gods. This self-inflicted pain was not madness, but a solemn proof of strength. Only those willing to bleed for their tribe earned the gods' favor. Others drank bitter potions made from rare herbs, designed to dull fear and ignite a fierce madness, transforming men into living weapons, driven by a trance-like devotion. Sacrifice extended beyond the individual. The Thracians offered captured enemies and sacred animals in bloody ceremonies, believing these acts fed the gods and ensured victory. These sacrifices often took place on hilltops at dawn, where blood spilled onto the earth was thought to awaken the spirits of the land itself. The gruesome nature of these rites terrified neighboring tribes and solidified the Thracians' fearsome reputation. In some instances, warriors wore trophies of their violent skulls, bones, or bloody garments to display their courage and connection to the divine. These symbols served as constant reminders that survival depended on pleasing the gods through acts of blood and brutality. The lines between faith and violence blurred, creating a culture where war and worship were inseparable. This relentless pursuit of honor through sacrifice left a deep imprint on the tribe's identity. It forged bonds between men and gods, warriors, and their tribe. Through rituals soaked in blood and steeped in belief, the Thracian savage customs continue to fascinate and horrify, revealing a world where the cost of honor was measured in pain and death. Such extreme rites set the foundation for even darker practices in death and punishment, rituals that would haunt the tribe's legacy for centuries to come. For the Thracians, death was not a final goodbye, but the beginning of a haunting journey. Their funerary rituals reflected a deep fear of restless spirits and the dark unknown that awaited beyond life. To protect the living from the dead's wrath, The tribe practiced ceremonies that seemed more like curses than farewells rituals designed to trap or torment the departed soul. Bodies were often mutilated in ways that defied comfort or respect. Some were buried with heavy stones pressed upon their chests, meant to stop the dead from rising and wandering the living world. Others had limbs bound or weapons shattered beside them, a symbolic effort to deny the spirit any power or chance of revenge. Such acts were harsh, but to the Thracians, they were necessary shields against supernatural danger. Strange offerings accompanied the burials, potions, charms, and even severed body parts were placed in the grave, intended to confuse or appease restless spirits. These rituals reflected a belief that the dead could return with vengeance if not properly contained. Families and shamans performed rites full of eerie chants and wild dances, hoping to seal the boundary between worlds and calm the restless dead. Fear of the afterlife's punishments ran deep. The Thracians believed that souls who failed these trials could become spirits of torment, cursed to haunt the living with misfortune and madness. These beliefs shaped their funerary customs into grim ceremonies, blending respect with dread and control. This obsession with controlling deaths, how shows a tribe caught between reverence and terror, where every burial was both a sacred act and a desperate defense. The chilling funerary practices reveal a culture shaped not just by life and war, but by the need to contain the horrors lurking just beyond the grave. These rites of death and fear naturally led to the tribe's ruthless system of justice punishments that were as brutal as their beliefs about the afterlife. In Thracian society, justice was a harsh and unforgiving force, wielded with brutal efficiency to maintain order and obedience. Mercy held no place in their harsh world. Punishment was designed not just to correct but to terrify. The severity of their penalties sent a clear message. Lawbreakers would suffer beyond pain, stripped of dignity and hope. Crimes, from theft to betrayal, were met with tortures that shocked even the fiercest neighboring tribes. Offenders might be chained in public squares, subjected to agonizing slow burns, or pierced with sharp objects, their suffering on full display as a grim warning to all who watched. These public punishments turned pain into spectacle. Fear became a tool to control not only the guilty, but the entire community. Some punishments were deeply symbolic, crafted to humiliate and strip away any shred of honor. Thieves could have their hands severed or be forced to wear collars of iron and bone, marks of disgrace that branded them for life. Worse offenses brought excruciating deaths, where victims were left to perish slowly, ensuring their agony was both physical and mental. Such cruelty was not mere cruelty, it was a calculated exercise of power. The Thracian code of justice was a reflection of a society built on strict hierarchy and loyalty. Fear was a binding agent, ensuring compliance. Through brutal example, the punishment was meant to echo through generations, a constant reminder that defiance invited not just death, but a legacy of shame and horror. These savage penalties extended beyond criminals to enemies captured in battle. The Thracians often subjected prisoners to tortures meant to break their spirits before death, rituals that reinforced the tribe's reputation from merciless strength. This unyielding justice system was more than law, it was a cultural force that maintained the tribe's fierce identity. The terrifying punishments reveal a society where control was enforced through pain and humiliation, creating a culture hardened by fear. This ruthless justice only deepened the tribe's dark connection between violence and belief, paving the way for their sacred madness and possession rituals that blurred the line between human and divine. Among the Thracians, madness was not feared but revered, a gateway to the divine. Shamans and oracles embraced states of wild possession, believing their minds were vessels for powerful spirits. These trance rituals were fierce and unpredictable, blending prophecy with raw, violent energy that unsettled all who witnessed them. During ceremonies, possessed priests could scream, convulse, and enter frenzies that seemed beyond human control. Their eyes glazed, voices changed, and bodies twisted as if gripped by unseen forces. This sacred madness was seen as proof of contact with gods, granting access to secrets beyond ordinary reach, far from chaos. These rituals held deep meaning, guiding the tribe's fate through messages delivered in madness. The possession was both a spiritual act and a display of power. Leaders and warriors sought the oracle's visions to confirm battles, make political decisions, or interpret omens. The fierce intensity of these rituals lent authority to their words, blurring the lines between fear and reverence. To challenge a possessed shaman was to risk angering the gods themselves. Commoners also took part in ecstatic dances and chants, joining the collective frenzy. The tribe believed that this shared madness could cleanse spirits, protect from evil, and strengthen bonds. Yet beneath the ecstasy lurked danger. Possession could become violent, sometimes turning inward or erupting against others in fits of rage and destruction. This disturbing fusion of prophecy and frenzy shaped the Thracians' worldview. It merged the divine with the brutal, the sacred with chaos. Through sacred madness, the tribe navigated a world ruled by unseen forces, where control came from surrendering to the very madness that terrified outsiders. These possession rituals reveal a culture where spirituality and violence were inseparable, setting the stage for a legacy both feared and misunderstood in history, one where the line between human and God dissolved into chaos. Though the Thracians disappeared from the pages of history, the shadow of their savage customs stretches far beyond their time. Their brutal rituals and terrifying beliefs wedged into the minds of neighboring peoples, who feared them as wild barbarians wielding dark, supernatural powers. Stories of their blood-soaked sacrifices, merciless punishments, and frenzied oracles became legends whispered with dread, shaping how ancient tribes and later civilizations viewed the limits of human brutality. These haunting tales reveal more than mere cruelty. They expose a deep human need to find order in chaos through ritual. The Thracians used violence and extreme customs not just as punishment or war, but as a way to control the uncertain world around them. Blood and pain became tools to bind communities, to reach the divine, and to confront the terror of death and the unknown. Their legacy warns of how easily power can slip into fear, and how ritual can blur into obsession. The tribe's brutal methods show a culture struggling to tame forces beyond understanding, forces of nature, spirit, and human emotion. In their rituals, the Thracians sought strength, protection, and meaning, even if it meant embracing darkness. Over centuries, echoes of their customs influenced myths and practices in the Balkans and beyond. The Thracians became symbols of the wild, untamed, and terrifying, an eternal reminder of the price paid when survival demands surrender to violence and fear. Their story challenges modern understanding of civilization, forcing reflection on how much of human culture is shaped by the thin line between faith and brutality. The Thracians vanished, but their savage rites and terrifying world linger as a stark testament to the extremes of human belief, a legacy of fear carved deep into history, still resonating in the rituals and myths of those who came after. The Tlingit people have long been admired for their intricate totem poles, vibrant masks, and rich storytelling traditions. Yet beneath this celebrated culture lies a shadowed world of ancient customs, rituals, and beliefs, so intense they unsettle even the most seasoned historians. Rooted deep in the dense forests and misty shores of the Pacific Northwest, the Tlingit built a society shaped not only by beauty, but by harsh survival and powerful spirituality. Their clan system governed every aspect of life. Loyalty to family was absolute, but with it came a fierce code of justice, often exacted in ways that would shock outsiders. death was never simply an end, but a passage requiring strict, sometimes brutal rituals. The Tlingit believed the spirit world was always near, a place where the dead's power could influence the living, sometimes protectively, other times with terrifying consequences. Early explorers and settlers recorded stories of night-long ceremonies where chanting and drumming summoned spirits that could possess the living. Shamans held sway, wielding both healing power and a darker authority, often enforcing social order through fear as much as respect. Those who crossed the clan or broke sacred laws faced punishments that were not just physical but spiritual, a form of exile that could condemn one's soul beyond death. Even the arrival of outsiders could not erase the weight of these ancient traditions. Accounts tell of Tlingit warriors who guarded their secrets fiercely, using ritual combat and symbolic acts to warn enemies and outsiders alike. These were not mere customs, but fierce expressions of identity, rights born from a harsh environment where survival meant understanding forces seen and unseen in these hidden depths. The Tlingits' fierce love for their land and people intertwined with a darkness few have truly grasped. It is a story of contrasts, beauty and brutality, honor and fear that shaped the tribe's enduring spirit. This fierce legacy emerges most vividly in their rituals, where life and death, power and punishment, meet in a complex dance that demands closer examination. Among the Tlingit, cannibalism was not a savage act born of desperation, but a deeply spiritual ritual woven into their understanding of life, death, and power. Far from mere taboo, the practice of consuming the flesh of enemies or even deceased relatives was believed to carry profound meaning, one that linked the physical world to the mysterious spirit realm. This gruesome feast was an act of reverence and transformation, where eating was a sacred way to honor the dead and claim their strength. The Tlingit viewed the human body as more than flesh and bone. It was a vessel of spirit and energy. By consuming an enemy, warriors believed they could absorb the courage and power that once lived in their foe's heart. It was a final, chilling victory, one that ensured the enemy's strength would no longer threaten the clan, but instead bolster their own. This ritual was not haphazard. It was surrounded by strict customs, careful preparation, and solemn prayers to guide the spirits on their journey. Cannibalism also played a vital role in funerary rites. When a respected elder or warrior died, certain parts of their body might be eaten by family members in sacred ceremonies. This was no act of horror, but a profound expression of connection, a way to keep the dead close, allowing their spirit to live on within the community. It symbolized an unbroken bond between the living and the dead, a passage that ensured the departed found peace while granting the survivors their blessings. These feasts were cloaked in secrecy and solemnity. The Tlingit believed that improper treatment of the dead or misuse of this ritual could unleash wrathful spirits, bringing misfortune or sickness upon the tribe. The balance between respect and power was delicate, demanding strict adherence to tradition and the guidance of skilled shamans. This complex relationship with death and consumption reveals the tribe's unique worldview, where life, death, honor, and the supernatural intertwined in rituals that both terrified and united. Understanding this gruesome feast sheds light on the deep spiritual roots of Tlingit culture and the forces that shaped their fierce identity. The exploration of their spiritual world continues with the tribe's unforgiving system of clan justice, where death and revenge weave together in a brutal dance of honor and survival. Among the Tlingit, justice was a force as fierce and unforgiving as the rugged land they called home. When death struck a clan member, the response was swift and absolute, a ritualized cycle of revenge designed to restore balance and uphold honor. This system of clan justice was not simply about punishment. It was a sacred duty, woven tightly into the social fabric and governed by strict codes that left little room for mercy. A killing demanded retaliation. The victim's family was obligated to seek vengeance, often by taking the life of someone from the offending clan. This was no random act of violence, but a carefully measured response, intended to settle the scales of honor and power. Every strike, every death, was a message, a warning that disrespect would not be tolerated, and that the blood spill must be answered in kind. Yet this relentless pursuit of vengeance carried a deadly cost. Retaliation often sparked cycles of escalating violence, as clans traded blows in brutal feuds that could rage for years. Entire communities could be drawn into the conflict, their survival threatened by the weight of inherited grudges. The land itself seemed to tremble beneath the fury of these blood feuds, where loyalty and wrath blurred into a constant battle for justice. Within this system, ceremony played a crucial role. Revenge killings were surrounded by ritual, ensuring the act was not mere murder but a solemn duty. Public declarations, feasts, and the involvement of clan leaders gave these acts a sense of order and meaning. Anchoring them in tradition, spirits of the dead were believed to watch over these proceedings, demanding that justice be served to maintain cosmic balance. This fierce code of clan justice was more than survival, it was a testament to identity and pride. To fail in revenge was to invite shame and spiritual peril. Yet, the cycle also trapped the Tlingit in a world where death bred death, and peace was fragile at best. From the harshness of clan vengeance, the Tlingit's rites of passage emerge as moments of intense transformation, painful trials where young men prove their strength and readiness to face the world beyond childhood. These rites reveal another layer of the tribe's demanding and deeply spiritual culture. For Tlingit boys, becoming a man was far from a simple rite of passage. It was a grueling test of body, mind, and spirit. Their initiation rites were designed to push entrants to the brink, forging warriors and leaders through pain and solitude. These harsh ceremonies demanded prolonged fasting, isolation from the community, and intense physical trials, each stage stripping away childhood and preparing the initiate for the weight of adult responsibility. Isolation was a central element. Young men were sent alone into the wilderness, sometimes for days or even weeks, with little food and only the barest shelter. This solitude was both a physical challenge and a spiritual journey. Cut off from family and familiar comfort, the boys faced their fears and confronted the unseen forces that Tlingit believed roamed the forests and waters. This time alone was a test of courage, patience, and resilience, shaping their mindsets, much as their bodies. Fasting deepened the ordeal, weakening the body but sharpening the spirit. The hunger and physical exhaustion were seen as cleansing, a way to purify the soul and open it to the lessons of the ancestors. Shamans often guided these rites, invoking protective spirits and watching for signs that the young man was ready to return, transformed and reborn. Physical trials followed entrance tests, cold water immersions, and demanding tasks that required strength and willpower. These challenges were brutal, designed to prove not only toughness but readiness to defend the clan and lead with honor. Pain was not punishment, but a passage, a necessary ordeal to claim the mantle of adulthood. At the conclusion of these rites, the initiate emerged forever changed, no longer a boy. He bore the scars and strength of his journey, marks of survival and spiritual growth. This transformation was celebrated, signaling a new chapter of responsibility and belonging. These initiation rituals reveal the Tlingit's belief in the power of hardship to forge identity, blending physical entrance with deep spiritual purpose. From the pain of passage, they stepped into roles shaped by honor, courage, and connection to both their ancestors and the living tribe among the Tlingit. Shamans were the mysterious gatekeepers between the living and the spirit world, wielding power that inspired both awe and fear. Their role went far beyond healing the body. They controlled spirits, manipulated unseen forces, and held the fragile balance between life and death. The ceremonies they led were intense, often terrifying, displays of spiritual authority. Where the boundaries between human and otherworldly blurred, healing was never gentle. Shamans subjected themselves to self-inflicted pain-cutting, burning, or piercing their own flesh to show their devotion and invite the spirit's presence. This sacrifice was a ritual offering, a way to prove their strength and dedication to the unseen forces they commanded. These acts of suffering were believed to open pathways for spirits to enter or leave the physical world, allowing the shaman to battle illness or curse on behalf of their people. Possession was another key element of their ceremonies. Shamans would enter trance-like states, their bodies trembling or contorting as spirits took control. During these moments, they spoke with voices not their own, delivering messages from the beyond or performing rites to restore balance. Witnesses described these scenes as haunting, an unsettling dance between human fragility and supernatural power. Visions induced by these rites could be terrifying. Shamans saw frightening creatures and terrifying landscapes beyond the veil of reality. These glimpses were not mere hallucinations, but sacred journeys necessary to identify spiritual threats or uncover a hidden knowledge. The shaman's ability to navigate these dark realms was crucial to the tribe's survival. Yet this power was dangerous. The line between healing and harm was razor thin. A failed ritual or disrespect towards spirits could unleash curses or illness instead of curing them. The community depended on the shaman's skill and spiritual strength, knowing that their health and safety hung in delicate balance. This grip of shamans on life and death highlights the profound spiritual dimension of Tlingit culture, one where pain, fear, and power intertwine in rituals that shape the very soul of the tribe. From these dark ceremonies, the tribe's fierce identity and social order were maintained. Echoing through generations, the body itself became a canvas of identity and endurance, marked forever by tattoos and scars that told stories of status, loyalty, and spiritual protection, an enduring testament to the tribe's complex relationship with pain and power. For the Tlingit, tattoos and scarification were far more than simple body art. They were living records etched onto skin, telling stories of identity, status, and spiritual power. Each mark was a symbol, carefully chosen and placed to communicate a person's clan affiliation, achievements, and responsibilities within the tribe. These permanent modifications spoke loudly in a culture where honor and belonging were everything. The process was painful and demanding, a test of endurance that mirrored the harsh trials faced in other rituals. Needles, sharp bones, and soot were used to create intricate designs and raise scars, often during ceremonies that reinforced their spiritual meaning. Enduring this pain was itself a rite of passage, a visible proof of strength and commitment that earned respect within the community. Tattoos were not merely decorative. They served as protective symbols believed to guard against evil spirits and misfortune. Scar patterns, too, held deep significance, marking milestones such as surviving, battle, rites of passage, or important social roles. The body became a sacred canvas, where past struggles and future duties were forever inscribed. These marks also reinforced the clan system, visibly linking individuals to their families and ancestors. They acted as social passports, announcing status and reminding both the wearer and the tribe of unbreakable bonds and shared history. In this way, tattoos and scars were woven into the tribe's collective identity, carrying meaning far beyond the skin. The legacy of these powerful body markings speaks to the Tlingit's complex relationship with pain, honor, and spirituality, a culture where suffering is transformed into strength and identity is both worn and lived every day. The tribe's dark traditions continue to shape their modern identity. Echoes of these ancient rituals still resonate, binding past to present in a lasting, sometimes haunting connection, though many of the Tlingit's darkest rituals have faded with time. Their echoes persist, weaving through the fabric of modern life. The fierce punishments, sacred rites, and spiritual beliefs of the past continue to shape how the tribe understands itself today, binding generations in a shared story of survival, strength, and identity. Modern Tlingit communities honor this legacy through storytelling, art, and ceremony, preserving the memory of traditions that once demanded pain and sacrifice. The lessons of those ancient practices still influence values like honor, respect for the spirit world, and the importance of clan loyalty. Even as the tribe navigates the challenges of today, these deep-rooted beliefs provide a foundation of resilience. The interplay of beauty and brutality in their history reveals a people who have faced hardship without losing their soul. This duality, where fierce justice meets profound spirituality, continues to inform the Tlingits' connection to their land, ancestors, and each other. Understanding these dark traditions offers a glimpse into a culture that embraces complexity, holding onto its past while moving forward. In tracing this hunting legacy, one sees not just the shadows of ancient rituals, but the enduring spirit of a tribe whose identity was forged in fire, pain, and unyielding strength. Deep within the vast, windswept deserts of Central Asia once lived a tribe as enigmatic as the shifting sands themselves, the Tocharians, emerging thousands of years ago. They forged a unique identity, speaking an Indo-European language unlike any other found so far east. Their culture thrived in isolation, weaving together strange customs and rituals that would unsettle even the most hardened modern observer. Archaeological discoveries have uncovered painted mummies clothed in brightly colored silks, adorned with tattoos and jewelry that hint at a society both rich and complex. Yet beneath this vivid exterior lies a world of extreme beliefs. Burial sites reveal haunting scenes where the dead were not simply laid to rest, but subjected to unsettling rites, the bodies carefully preserved, sometimes wrapped in layers of cloth and bound tightly, as if to contain something dangerous. Beyond death, this ancient tribe's rituals extended beyond death. They practiced rites that blurred the line between life and the afterlife, rooted deeply in fears of restless spirits and curses. These fears shaped the lives of the Tocharians, pushing them to create customs that protected their world from unseen terrors. Such beliefs were woven into their daily existence, influencing everything from marriage to punishment. More startling are signs of harsh social rules enforced through brutal measures. Evidence suggests the Tocharians upheld a strict hierarchy, where breaking tribal laws meant facing punishments designed to terrify and control. Scarred remains tell stories of physical trials and public punishments, customs that seem extreme today, but were essential for maintaining order within their harsh environment. What happened to the Tocharians remains a mystery. Once a flourishing people, they vanished almost without a trace. Some scholars suggest shifting trade routes and climate changes. Others speak of violent conflicts or cultural absorption. Whatever the cause, their disappearance only deepens the eerie fascination surrounding their culture, leaving behind fragments that hint at a civilization ruled by ritual, fear, and strange beliefs. For the Tocharians, loyalty was not given lightly. It was earned through fire, blood, and endurance. To join the tribe fully, young members faced initiation rituals that tested their very will to live. These rites of passage were brutal, designed not only to prove strength, but to bind the initiate's spirit forever to the tribe's harsh code. One of the most feared rituals forced youths to endure excruciating pain. Some were made to walk barefoot across scorching stones under the relentless sun. Each step a battle against blistering heat that seared skin and tested resolve. Others faced piercing tattoos, where sharpened bones or metal needles marked their bodies with symbols believed to protect or punish, marks that burned long after the ink dried. But the most extreme tests went beyond endurance. They pushed the limits of human survival, Initiates sometimes had to spend long nights alone in unforgiving wilderness, exposed to freezing winds and prowling predators. The tribe believed that surviving these nights proved not just physical toughness but spiritual readiness, a sign the soul was strong enough to face the unknown. Pain was not merely physical. It was a passage into a new identity. The suffering endured was said to burn away doubts and fears, stripping away weakness. It shaped the initiate's mind as much as their body, forging a mental toughness that echoed in every action thereafter. The scars left behind were badges of honor, visible proof of loyalty to the tribe and its ancient ways. These rituals served a deeper social purpose. They were gates that controlled who belonged and who did not. Failing a rite meant exile or worse, a fate feared more than death itself. The tribe's survival depended on such harsh tests, ensuring only the strongest and most devoted could claim their place within this secretive society. The psychological weight of these rites lingered long after the pain faded. Initiates carried the memory of suffering is a constant reminder of their duty and connection to the tribe's past. It was a bond sealed in blood and fire, creating an unbreakable thread that tied generations together. These deadly rites of passage reveal a culture that valued strength and loyalty above all else, demanding sacrifice and resilience in ways that continue to shock modern minds. From these trials of pain and endurance emerged the Tocharians, fiercely loyal warriors, ready to uphold their tribe's mysterious and extreme customs. In the unforgiving world of the Tocharians, justice was swift, brutal, deeply physical. Crime was not only a breach of law, but a threat to the fragile order that kept the tribe alive. To deter wrongdoing, the Tocharians crafted punishments that cut far deeper than mere fines or exile. They carved consequences directly into the flesh and psyche of the offender. Mutilation was a common sentence. Thieves might find their fingers sliced off, a permanent reminder of their betrayal. Those accused of betrayal or betrayal of trust faced harsher fates, eyes gouged or ears sliced. Disfiguring marks that broadcast guilt to the entire tribe. These bodily punishments served as visible scars, symbols of shame worn like dark badges for life. Public humiliation was equally central. Punishments were carried out before the tribe, turning justice into a spectacle designed to shock and terrify. Offenders were paraded through the village, their wounds on display as warnings. The public nature of these acts reinforced social order by weaving fear deeply into communal life. Every cut and scar told a story of broken laws and harsh consequences. The pain was not merely physical but psychological. The trauma endured by punished individuals often extended to their families, who bore the social stigma and isolation that followed. Children of offenders faced suspicion and exclusion, trapped in the shadow of past crimes. The Tocharians believed that such collective consequences strengthened loyalty and deterred rebellion, binding families to uphold strict codes of behavior. This justice system was more than punishment. It was control. It shaped behavior by embedding fear and shame into the body itself. In a harsh environment where survival depended on unity, these extreme methods kept order with ruthless efficiency. No act of disobedience went unnoticed or unpunished, and the consequences often lasted far beyond a single lifetime. These carvings in flesh, these public displays of pain, reveal a society where law and ritual fused into one. Justice was a living, breathing force, raw, visible and unforgettable. It spoke to a tribe's need for absolute loyalty, enforced through suffering and fear. For the Tocharians, skin was more than flesh. It was a living canvas charged with deep spiritual meaning. Tattoos were not mere decoration. They were powerful symbols that connected individuals to the divine, the tribe, and the unseen forces that shaped their world. These inked marks held immense power, believed to protect the well or, in some cases, bring doom. Tattooing was a sacred rite, reserved for those chosen or marked by destiny. warriors, shamans, and leaders bore intricate designs etched into their skin. Each pattern telling stories of bravery, status, and connection to ancestral spirits. These tattoos served as shields against evil, wards that could turn aside curses or harm. The act of tattooing was itself a ritual, painful and slow. It tested endurance and commitment, binding the person to their spiritual rule. Yet, not all tattoos were blessings. Some were feared as marks of damnation, curses inked to condemn or punish. Criminals or those believed to carry misfortune were branded with symbols meant to isolate and warn others. These dark tattoos could invite social exile, as well as spiritual torment. The line between protection and curse was thin, and the power of these marks weighed heavily on the minds of both wearer and community. The sacred ink was crafted from rare minerals and plants, mixed into a paste that seemed almost alive. The process was mysterious, controlled by tribal elders and shamans who knew which symbols could heal or harm. This knowledge was passed down through generations, guarded jealously as a secret source of power. Wearing a tattoo was more than identity. It was destiny written on skin. The Tocharians believed that these marks could influence fate, channeling the forces of life and death. A well-placed symbol might grant strength in battle or protect against evil spirits, while a cursed mark could bring illness, misfortune, or madness. The psychological weight of these tattoos ran deep. Those marked with sacred symbols carried pride and fear alike, aware that their body bore a living story of power or warning. The tribe, too, read these marks as a language of fate, judging and reacting based on the tattoos they saw. This intertwining of religion, identity, and body art reveals a culture where every mark had meaning, and where the fear of spiritual consequences shaped lives as strongly as any physical force. From these inked symbols of power and damnation, the Tocharians moved toward their final journey. Rituals of death that shocked even the most hardened observers for the Tocharians. Death was not the final silence, but a fearful journey into a shadowed realm. Their burial practices were strange and unsettling, rooted in the belief that the dead could influence the world of the living, for blessing or curse. Death demanded elaborate rituals designed to guide the spirit safely and to protect those left behind from unseen dangers. Tombs were more than resting places. They were carefully constructed fortresses against restless souls. Bodies were wrapped tightly in layers of cloth, sometimes bound with ropes or placed in wooden coffins shaped like protective shells. Some graves contained weapons, tools, or food, offerings meant to equip the dead for the afterlife's uncertain trials. These elaborate arrangements reflected a fear that spirits might return, either to seek revenge or to haunt their descendants. The dead were never alone. Archaeological evidence reveals that human sacrifices accompanied some burials, a chilling attempt to calm angry spirits or accompany a leader into the next world. These sacrifices were violent and brutal, meant as a final act of loyalty or payment to appease gods who controlled life and death. Such acts were believed to maintain balance between the worlds and to prevent disasters from befalling the living. But death rituals went further. The Tocharians practiced rites to seal the grave, using fire, stones, or magical symbols painted on tombs to trap spirits inside. These rituals show a deep fear of the supernatural, a belief that the dead, if not properly controlled, could unleash chaos. In some cases, graves were located far from the living settlements, isolating the dead in remote places where their restless presence could not harm the community. These funerary customs reveal a tribe obsessed with the boundaries between life and death, safety and danger. Each ritual was a desperate measure to control what could not be seen, to bind the spirit world and keep it from spilling into the mortal realm. Death was both an ending and a beginning, a moment charged with dread and power. The psychological weight of these rites shaped the Tocharians' view of existence, a fragile balance maintained through fear and reverence. This tension between life and death, order and chaos, defined much of their culture and belief system. The Tocharians, once a thriving and fierce tribe, vanished from history as abruptly as they appeared. Their strange and extreme customs left behind echoes in ancient tombs and fragile manuscripts. But no clear answer explains their sudden disappearance. Scholars and historians continue to piece together fragments, searching for clues in the dusty ruins and fading colors of their lost world. One theory points to cultural clashes. The Tocharians lived along crucial trade routes, a crossroads where empires collided and outsiders pressed hard against their borders. Encounters with more powerful neighbors could have led to violent conflicts, forcing the tribe into retreat or destruction. Their fierce customs may have made alliances difficult, isolating them when survival demanded unity. Environmental shifts also paint a grim picture. Changes in climate may have turned their lands harsh and barren, cutting off resources essential for their survival. Droughts, shifting rivers, or devastating winters could have pushed the Tocharians to desperate choices, fracturing their social order and weakening the tribe from within. Internal collapse is another haunting possibility. Extreme rituals and brutal punishments might have bred fear and resentment, fracturing trust and loyalty. Generations bound by pain and harsh customs could have torn themselves apart, allowing rival clans or outsiders to seize power. The very traditions meant to protect the tribe may have sown seeds of its downfall. Archaeological discoveries offer cryptic hints, but no final answers. Abandoned settlements, unfinished tombs, and sudden breaks in cultural artifacts suggest people who left in haste or were violently removed. This sudden absence only deepens the mystery and fascination with the Tocharians. A tribe whose shadows linger long after their voices have faded. Their disappearance invites reflection on the fragile line between survival and extinction, especially for cultures bound by extreme beliefs and customs. What became of the Tocharians remains unknown, but their haunting legacy continues to challenge and captivate those who seek to understand the depths of ancient human experience. With their story fading into legend, the Tocharians remind the world how even the most powerful societies can vanish without a trace. The Toda tribe clings to the misty Nilgiri hills of southern India, a place where time feels suspended and the outside world barely intrudes. This small, isolated community is known for its strikingly pale skin and distinctive red embroidered robes, but beneath their serene surface lies a world filled with unsettling customs that baffle and disturb outsiders. Their identity is bound tightly to the sacred buffalo, an animal revered not just for its utility, but as a living symbol of divine power. At the heart of Toda life is an ancient way of living that resists change, complex rituals passed down through generations, whispered in secrecy and enacted with solemn devotion. The tribe's ceremonies are elaborate, weaving together myth and reality, where offerings of blood and sacrifice are part of a spiritual dialogue with unseen forces. Their rituals demand strict purity, not just in actions but in the body and spirit, guarded by unyielding social rules that can isolate and punish those who stray. Strikingly, the Toda maintain a strict separation between men and women, even in daily life. This gender divide extends to sacred spaces and rituals, where crossing boundaries is forbidden and met with severe consequences. Such customs may seem extreme, but within the tribe, they preserve a fragile balance between the human and the divine. The Toda's connection to their cattle is more than economic. It is a sacred bond that shapes their worldview. The buffalo are kept in ornate huts, tended with rituals that blur the lines between worship and husbandry. Each ceremony, each chant, holds layers of meaning, messages to ancestral spirits and forces beyond understanding. This intertwining of daily life and spiritual belief creates a world that feels both timeless and distant, while the modern world pushes against their traditions. The Toda remain the guardians of a realm few have glimpsed of, realm where pain, purity, and the sacred collide. Their hidden world holds secrets that challenge the imagination, revealing a culture where the bizarre and the divine are inseparable. These strange customs, both fascinating and unsettling, open the door to deeper mysteries waiting to be uncovered. From this veil of isolation and sacred duty, the next chapters will uncover the more disturbing rituals that define the Toda tribe, rituals where blood, pain, and exile are tools of survival and spiritual power. In Toda culture, the buffalo is far more than livestock. It is a sacred being, a living god that sustains not only life, but the very soul of the tribe. These animals are kept in special huts called mans, small temples where the boundary between the human and the divine blurs. Every breath the buffalo takes is honored, every step measured with reverence. The Toda's survival depends on these creatures, but their worship twists into something far stranger than simple devotion. Sacrifices are at the core of this devotion ritual, slaughters performed with precise, almost chilling ceremony. Blood is not merely spilled. It is offered as a powerful gift to ancestral spirits. The tribe believes that the buffalo's life force connects them to the invisible world, and only through these sacrifices can the balance between earth and spirit be maintained. The act is both brutal and sacred, a painful reminder of life's fragility and the tribe's dependence on forces beyond their control. But the Toda obsession with purity goes even deeper. Contact with outsiders is strictly forbidden near there. Sacred cattle, deemed dangerous and polluting. Anyone violating these taboos risks harsh punishment and spiritual exile. This fierce protection extends to breeding rituals as well. The Toda carefully control every mating, ensuring bloodlines remain pure according to ancient tribal laws. Any deviation is seen as a threat to the tribe's spiritual health and social order. This obsession creates a rigid hierarchy within the tribe, where status is tied to one's role in protecting and managing the sacred herd. Buffalo keepers are both revered and feared, guardians of a power that borders on obsession. Their every action reflects a delicate balance between devotion and control, reverence and domination. The rituals surrounding the buffalo reveal a tribe caught in a cycle of sacred devotion and strict control. In this world, the lines between worship, obsession, and survival are dangerously thin. These rituals, brutal and exacting, show how the Toda's identity is inseparable from their cattle symbols of life, death, and spiritual power. Across the Toda tribe, the body becomes a living canvas of ancient stories, etched painfully into the skin. Scarification is more than decoration. It is a brutal rite of passage and a spiritual cleansing. The act of carving deliberate, sharp lines into flesh serves as a powerful symbol of courage and endurance, marking those who endure as true members of the tribe. Each cut is made with precise intention, following patterns passed down through generations. These scars tell stories no words could capture, tales of loyalty, sacrifice, and belonging. The pain endured during the ritual is not punishment, but a transformative force, believed to cleanse the spirit and strengthen the bond between the individual and the tribe's ancestors. It is a visible oath, a testament written in flesh that proclaims identity and allegiance. For the Toda, scarification signals a person's passage from childhood into adulthood, signaling readiness to bear the weight of tribal responsibility. Those without the marks are outsiders, disconnected from the tribe's spiritual power and social fabric. In this way, the ritual enforces unity and exclusion, simultaneously binding the tribe together through shared pain and visible signs of belonging. The process itself is raw and unyielding. Tools fashioned from sharpened bones or stones cut deeply, the blood mixing with sacred oils and chants. the scars are left to heal slowly. A permanent reminder that strength and purity come through endurance of suffering. The body becomes a sacred text, chronicling an individual's role within the tribe and their connection to its ancient roots. These marks are a visible language of power, a way the Toda translate their spiritual beliefs into something tangible and unbreakable. They show how pain, far from being destructive, is embraced as a vital force, one that purifies and preserves identity. The Toda tribe's world is ruled by invisible boundaries, lines drawn not just in law, but in spirit. Crossing these lines invites punishment so severe it fractures both body and soul. Among the strictest taboos are those surrounding marriage and relationships. Forbidden unions threaten the fragile purity the tribe guards jealously, and breaking these codes triggers punishments that are as chilling as they are final. Exile stands as the harshest sentence, a fate worse than death in the eyes of the Toda. To be cast out means more than losing a place among the living. It means severing the sacred thread that connects an individual to their ancestors and Th. A spiritual protection that defines Toda life. Once expelled, the exile is stripped of identity, left to wander without the tribe's blessings, vulnerable to both physical danger and spiritual darkness. This brutal justice system serves a grim purpose: to preserve tribal purity at all costs. The Toda believe that even a single act of forbidden love can taint the entire community, inviting misfortune and disrupting the delicate balance between the human and divine. Punishment is swift and merciless, designed not only to punish the offender but to warn others of the deadly consequences of defiance. Fear saturates the tribe's social fabric, shaping behavior with a cold and yielding grip. Relationships are scrutinized. Trust is guarded with suspicion. This atmosphere of control leaves no room for error, where a moment's desire can lead to permanent exile. Even whispers of forbidden love carry weighty consequences, silencing voices and isolating hearts before punishment can take hold. Yet beneath this harsh surface lies a desperate attempt to protect a way of life threatened by change. The tribe's punishments reveal a society caught between tradition and survival, where fear is weaponized to defend ancient beliefs. This ruthless system, while terrifying, is woven deeply into the Toda's identity, a grim reminder of the price paid for belonging. Death among the Toda is not an end, but a passage into a shadowed world that shapes the fate of both the departed and those left behind. Their funerary customs are wrapped in secrecy and solemnity, a series of elaborate ceremonies designed to bridge the divide between the living and the spirit realm. These rituals are as haunting as they are sacred, revealing a deep belief in the afterlife's power to influence the living. When a Toda dies, the tribe enters a state of intense mourning, marked by ritualistic expressions of grief that seem to draw the pain from body and soul alike. Mourners perform precise acts of wailing and silence, their emotions woven into chants that echo through the hills like calls to unseen forces. This mourning is not merely sorrow, it is a vital act of communication, a plea for the dead's peaceful passage and protection. The treatment of the body itself is equally ritualistic and laden with meaning. Strict rules govern how the corpse must be cleansed, dressed, and prepared for burial. The Toda believe the physical form still holds power after death. So the corpse is handled with reverence and caution. Certain herbs and oils are applied, believed to ward off malevolent spirits that might harm the living or trap the dead soul in unrest. Burial practices follow strict spatial laws. The dead cannot rest just anywhere. They are laid to rest in designated sacred grounds, carefully chosen to maintain the tribe's spiritual balance. Disturbing these grounds or mixing burials is forbidden and thought to bring curses or misfortune. This insistence on order extends beyond death, emphasizing that the spiritual health of the tribe depends on respecting boundaries between worlds. Underlying these customs is a profound fear and respect for the afterlife's influence. The Toda believe that spirits of the dead linger close, watching, judging, and sometimes punishing the living. This belief shapes daily life, reinforcing social codes and reminding the tribe that death is a constant, looming presence with power over the living. These funerary rituals are more than ceremonies. They are a testament to the Toda's fragile hold on a sacred order where life, death, and the spirit world intertwine. The tribe's future hinges on the careful preservation of these rites. Even as the modern world threatens their very existence, the Toda tribe stands at a crossroads, their ancient world slipping away beneath the relentless tide of modernization, hidden for centuries within the Nilgiri hills. Their secretive rituals and sacred customs now face unprecedented threats from outsiders, government forces, and shifting cultural values. What once was protected by isolation now teeters on the edge of extinction. These guardians of tradition fight to hold on to practices that define their identity. Even as the modern world erodes the boundaries they have fiercely maintained, sacred ceremonies, the rituals of blood and pain, and the strict social codes once kept safe by remoteness now struggle to survive in a changing landscape. The tribe's sacred buffalo herds shrink, and younger generations question the harsh punishments and mysterious rites that have governed their ancestors for centuries. The fear of losing not only land, but soul haunts the Toda. Their rituals are more than strange customs. They are the threads holding together a fragile tapestry of meaning, belief, and belonging. Each abandoned ceremony, each lost taboo chips away at the tribe's spiritual foundation, threatening to unravel a world built on pain, purity, and ancient connection. Yet, despite this vulnerability, the Toda remain fiercely protective. Secrecy becomes their shield, silence their weapon. Outsiders glimpse only fragments of a culture steeped in mystery and extremity, while the tribe guards the darkest rituals and strictest taboos with unwavering resolve. Their world is a fragile fortress, where every ritual preserved is a victory against erasure. This struggle reveals the paradox of survival, a battle not just for life, but for the right to exist on their own terms, no matter how disturbing or extreme those terms may seem. The Toda's vanishing world is a stark reminder that the line between preservation and loss is razor-thin as the shadows lengthen over their sacred hills. The haunting question remains, can the Toda keep their ancient rites alive? Or will the world's march swallow their secrets forever? The Toltec civilization stands as one of history's most enigmatic powers, a culture built on both extraordinary skill and chilling brutality. Known for their artistry in stonework, intricate weaving, and towering pyramids, the Toltecs mastered crafts that dazzled the ancient world. Yet beneath this refined surface lurked a society bound by fear, violence, and dark rituals that left their neighbors trembling, rising in what is now central Mexico. The Toltecs carved an empire out of war and religion. Their warriors were fierce, their rulers absolute. Cities like Tula pulsed with energy where sculpted jaguars and fierce serpents watched from every corner, symbols of divine power and ruthless control. These creatures were not mere decoration. They embodied the violent forces that the Toltecs believed held the universe together. At the heart of their culture was a strict code enforced through terrifying ceremonies. The Toltecs believed that cosmic balance depended on human blood, and their rituals were designed to maintain order by invoking fear and obedience. Captives taken in battle were not just enemies, they became offerings to gods who demanded sacrifice to prevent the end of tea. World. This belief gave rise to some of the most disturbing and bizarre rites ever recorded. The shadow of the Toltecs extends far beyond their own era. Many of their customs and symbols influenced later civilizations, including the Aztecs, who adopted and intensified the rituals of sacrifice and war. The echoes of Toltec power reveal a society where beauty and horror were inseparable, and where faith was a weapon as sharp as any sword. To understand the Toltecs is to confront a world where life was fragile, death was sacred, and mystery reigned supreme, setting the stage for a journey into their darkest and most terrifying practices. In the world of the Toltecs, death was not an end, but a sacred duty, a necessary offering to keep the cosmos alive. Human sacrifice stood at the center of their dark religious life, a brutal practice designed to satisfy gods believed to control the forces of nature and time itself. These ceremonies were not secret rites hidden away from the public. They were grand, terrifying spectacles that fused fear, devotion, and power in a deadly dance. Victims were often captured warriors or prisoners taken in battle, stripped of their identity and fate. Their selection was deliberate, for the Toltecs believed that the blood of the brave and strong had the power to nourish the gods. The act of sacrifice was seen as a gift that maintained the universe's balance. Without it, darkness and chaos would consume the world. The rituals began long before the final moment. Victims were prepared with solemn ceremony, dressed in elaborate costumes symbolizing gods or animals. Their bodies marked with paint and feathers, they were paraded through crowded plazas where thousands gathered, their faces a mix of horror and reverence. This public display was meant to remind the people of the gods' power and the price demanded for their favor. The methods of sacrifice were savage and precise. Often, the victim's chest was cut open while still alive, the heart ripped free, and held high as a glowing offering to the heavens. The sight of the beating heart, fresh and bright, was believed to carry life force directly to the gods. Other times, victims were thrown down temple steps or burned alive on towering pyres, their screams echoing as prayers in the smoke-filled air. Fire played a central role, both as a purifier and a symbol of divine wrath. Flames lit the night sky, transforming human flesh into smoke and ash, a visible sign that the sacrifice had been accepted. The Toltecs believed this fiery passage was essential, a way for the soul to travel from the earthly realm to join the gods. These sacrifices served more than religious purposes. They were instruments of control. By staging these gruesome ceremonies in public, the Toltecs reinforced their power over both life and death. Fear of divine punishment kept the population in line, while the ruling class displayed their ability to command cosmic forces. The scale of these rituals was staggering. Entire plazas were built to accommodate the crowds who came to witness the terrifying rites, a grim reminder of the cost of maintaining order in a world ruled by gods who demanded blood. For the Toltecs, sacrifice was not cruelty, it was survival. It was a terrifying truth that shaped every moment of their lives and sealed their legacy as one of history's most fearsome cultures. In Toltec society, justice was brutal, swift, and absolute. The law was not just a set of rules, but a sacred force intertwined with religion and cosmic order. Punishments for crimes or betrayals went far beyond imprisonment or fines. They were violent rituals, and to punish the body and cleanse the soul, sending a clear message that disobedience invited death or mutilation. The severity of Toltec punishments was shocking. Thieves, traitors, and those who broke social codes faced consequences designed to strip them of their dignity and humanity. Mutilations were common, hands cut off for stealing, tongues pierced or removed for lies or blasphemy. These acts were more than physical pain. They were public marks of shame, branding offenders forever in the eyes of the tribe. Executions were often theatrical and ritualized, serving both as punishment and a grim warning. Some criminals were bound and exposed in the central plazas, subjected to slow torture while priests intoned prayers that linked their suffering to the god's wrath. Others faced death by fire or were thrown into pits filled with venomous creatures, a symbolic return to chaos for those who dared disrupt the divine order. Public shaming played a vital role in maintaining control. The community gathered not only to witness punishment, but to participate in it, mocking, jeering, and reinforcing the power of the ruling class. This collective judgment bound society together through fear, reminding everyone that loyalty was demanded and betrayal was unforgivable. The connection between punishment and spirituality ran deep. The Toltecs believed that moral and social offenses disrupted the balance between the mortal world and the divine. Thus, punishments were rituals meant to restore harmony, cleansing the community of impurities that could anger the gods or invite disaster. Pain and suffering became tools for purification as much as for discipline. This system of extreme justice ensured that power remained in the hands of the elite and that social order was maintained. In through terror and reverence, the line between law and religion blurred, creating a society where obedience was enforced through fear of both human authority and divine judgment. The Toltecs looked to the sky not just for guidance, but as a gateway to power and destiny. Their obsession with the cosmos went beyond simple astronomy. It was a dark, spiritual connection that linked the stars, gods, and human fate in a tangled web of mystery and fear. Every celestial event was believed to signal the will of the gods, shaping the rhythm of life and death for the tribe below. At the heart of Toltec belief was the idea that humans were mirrors of the heavens, their bodies and souls entwined with the movements of stars and planets. To strengthen this connection, they practiced bizarre and intense rituals designed to alter consciousness and break the boundaries between the physical world and the divine realm. Hallucinogenic plants were consumed to induce visions, believed to reveal hidden truths and grant direct contact with celestial forces. These altered states of mind were not recreational but sacred, a terrifying journey where the participant faced both enlightenment and madness. Priests, shamans, and warriors alike underwent these rites, marked by symbolic body paint and tattoos that mirrored constellations or cosmic symbols. Each mark was thought to open pathways for divine energy to flow through flesh and spirit, binding the wearer to the heavens and the gods' inscrutable plans. The Toltecs interpreted the cosmos as a living, breathing force whose cycles demanded strict observance and ritual obedience. Eclipses, solstices, and planetary alignments were moments of immense spiritual danger and power. Ceremonies timed to these events involved elaborate dances, chants, and offerings that blurred the line between reality and otherworldly terror. These rituals often left participants shaken, their minds caught between worlds. Magic and astronomy were inseparable in Toltec culture. The heavens dictated fate, but magic shaped it. Sacred objects, like obsidian mirrors and carved skulls, were used to channel cosmic energy during ceremonies that called on gods to influence life and death. These practices fueled a profound fear and reverence, an understanding that the universe's dark secrets are both a source of power and a reminder of humanity's fragile place within it. The Toltec warrior elite lived a life shaped by pain, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. Their initiation rites were among the most brutal in the ancient world, designed to test every limit of endurance and bind the initiate forever to the gods and the tribe. These ceremonies were not mere traditions. They were sacred trials that forged warriors into living weapons, ready to defend Toltec power with blood and steel. From the very first moments, initiates faced excruciating tests. Endurance of pain was demanded, often through self-inflicted wounds or symbolic mutilations. Some warriors pierced their skin with obsidian blades, while others endured whipping or branding, each mark a sacred badge of honor. These acts of suffering were believed to purify the body and soul, making the warrior worthy of divine protection and strength beyond pain. Symbolic deaths played a crucial role. Initiates underwent rituals that mimicked death and rebirth, plunging them into darkness or isolation to confront their fears and emerge transformed. These rites erased their former selves, binding them to the eternal cycle of life, death, and loyalty to the gods. The warrior was no longer an individual, but a vessel for divine power and tribal destiny. The ceremonies were fierce displays of power, witnessed by priests and elders who ensured the sacred rules were followed to the letter. Success meant acceptance into a secret society of elite warriors who held immense influence and respect. Failure was unthinkable, often met with severe punishment or exile. These initiations created warriors who were fearless, ruthless, and utterly devoted. Their loyalty was more than allegiance. It was a spiritual bond sealed in blood and pain. Through these rites, the Toltecs maintained their grip on power, ensuring their traditions and brutal legacy would endure. This final chapter of initiation reveals how deeply the Toltecs intertwined violence, faith, and identity, an unbreakable cycle that fueled their rise and shaped the terrifying rituals that defined their civilization. The Trobriand Islands lie scattered like jewels in the warm waters of Papua New Guinea, home to a people whose world seems untouched by time. Their society is built on a matrilineal foundation, where lineage and inheritance flow through women, an unusual system that shapes every aspect of daily life. Here, traditions pulse with a strange intensity, weaving belief and reality into a tapestry that outsiders can barely comprehend. Life among the Trobri and Islanders unfolds through rituals that blur the line between the sacred and the ordinary. Birth, marriage, death, each passage marked by customs so unique they challenge what many think of as normal. Their rites of passage are steeped in symbolism, often strange and unsettling. Boys and girls grow into adults through ceremonies that can involve tests of entrance and secret teachings. These rites do not merely mark age, but reshape identity, binding individuals to their community in ways that feel both mystical and binding. The islanders' views on sexuality are notably different from many modern societies. Sexual relationships are not hidden, but are openly discussed and integrated into social life with surprising freedom. Yet beneath this openness lies a complex system of rules and taboos, where certain desires are celebrated and others forbidden, creating a social dance that is both liberating and strict. These customs are not mere curiosities, but serve a deeper purpose, maintaining balance and order in a world where spiritual forces are believed to be constantly present. Death, too, is surrounded by elaborate customs that reveal a profound connection to the unseen. The Trobriand Islanders see death not as an end, but as a transformation, a journey that demands respect and ritual care. Mourning is public and intense, with ceremonies that may involve days of song, dance, and symbolic acts designed to ease the soul's passage. These practices reveal a culture that lives in constant dialogue with spirits, ancestors, and the forces that govern life itself. Their belief in magic and sorcery adds a darker layer to daily existence. Shamans hold great power, believed to wield forces that can heal or harm. Fear of curses and witchcraft influences behavior, sometimes erupting into harsh punishments or social exile for those accused. This fear of the invisible enemy creates a tension beneath the islanders' vibrant customs, a reminder of the fragility of their world. The Trobriand Islanders embody a way of life both mesmerizing and unsettling. Their rituals and beliefs confront outsiders with the raw edges of human culture, forcing the reconsideration of what it means to live in harmony with nature, spirit, and community. As these customs unfold, they reveal not only the extraordinary fabric of the Trobriand world, but also the universal human need to find meaning beyond the everyday. In the heart of the Trobriand Islands, dance is more than movement, it is a language of life and power, a sacred performance that speaks to the very roots of existence. These elaborate dances, rich with rhythm and color, are woven into the fabric of the tribe's identity, serving as vital ceremonies that celebrate fertility, and uphold social order. They are moments where the boundaries between body and spirit dissolve, where human desire becomes a force both raw and revered. The dancers move with deliberate grace, their gestures charged with meaning only fully understood within the island's ancient belief system. Every sway, every glance carries a message about creation, growth, and the cycle of life. In these rituals, sexuality is not hidden or shamed, but embraced openly, intertwined with spiritual power in ways that unsettle many who witness them. The dances expose a culture where eroticism and sacredness are inseparable, a world where desire is a necessary energy to sustain the community and honor the gods, unlike in many other societies. The Tocharian Islanders do not separate love, sex, and ritual. Their dances embody this unity, using symbolic movements that evoke fertility both of the land and its people. Young men and women take part in these ceremonies, their bodies moving in harmony to celebrate the potential of new life. At times, the dances verge on the provocative, with gestures and costumes designed to stimulate and awaken the senses. This openness challenges outsiders' ideas about modesty, revealing a society that views human passion as natural and even divine. The power behind these dances extends beyond fertility alone. They reinforce the social structures that keep the tribe balanced, marking who belongs where, who holds influence, and how relationships intertwine. The ritual acts as a reminder that every member is part of a larger whole, connected through blood, desire, and tradition. The dancers channel forces believed to maintain the health of their people and their land, a connection to nature's cycles that is fragile yet fiercely protected. Through these sacred dances, the Tocharian Islanders reveal a vision of life where desire is not darkness to hide, but a bright, vital flame to honor. This vivid intertwining of sexuality and spirituality prepares the stage for the deeper mysteries of death and the afterlife, where belief shapes every step of existence. Death among the Tocharian Islanders is not an end, but a passage into a mysterious realm where the living and the dead remain deeply intertwined. Their rituals surrounding death are intense and layered with symbolism, often unsettling to those unfamiliar with their customs. Every act is charged with meaning, designed to guide the soul safely into the afterlife and protect the community from restless spirits. These ceremonies reflect a worldview where the boundary between life and death is thin, fragile, and sacred. When a person dies, the community gathers in mourning. But grief here is more than sorrow. It is a powerful force that shapes the ceremony. The body is cared for with rituals that can seem harsh, including symbolic acts meant to sever earthly ties and prepare the spirit for its journey. Some practices involve the destruction or careful burial of personal belongings to ensure the soul does not linger or become trapped in the living world. The treatment of the corpse is not simply about respect for the dead, but a vital act to maintain cosmic balance. The Tocharian Islanders believe the soul's journey after death is perilous, requiring careful navigation through spiritual realms. Elders and ritual specialists perform complex ceremonies involving chants, dances, and offerings that invoke ancestral spirits and protective forces. These acts are meant to escort the deceased safely, warding off evil spirits and ensuring a soul's rebirth or peaceful rest. The elaborate nature of these rituals shows a profound respect for life's cycle and the hope for a continuity beyond death. Fear and reverence coexist in these death rites. The living fear the anger or unrest of souls who have not completed their passage, believing that such spirits can bring illness or misfortune. This fear drives strict adherence to rules about mourning, burial, and the conduct of funerary ceremonies. At the same time, there is a hopeful belief that death connects the community to a spiritual world that watches over them, a source of strength and guidance. These customs reveal the Tocharian Islanders' deep understanding of life's fragility and the unseen forces that shape their existence. Their approach to death is neither cold nor clinical, but charged with emotion, ritual, and meaning. It is a powerful testament to a culture that lives in constant dialogue with the unknown in the Trobriand Islands. Magic is not merely superstition, it is a tangible force woven into the very fabric of daily life. Sorcerers and shamans hold immense power, their knowledge of spells and curses shaping the fate of individuals and entire families. This world of magic is a shadow beneath the island's bright customs, a secret realm where fear and respect coexist. In delicate balance, the sorcerer's role is complex and paradoxical. Seen as both healer and destroyer, these figures command rituals that can protect against illness or bring devastating misfortune. Their magic is believed to reach beyond the physical, influencing the unseen forces that govern health, fertility, and social harmony. For the islanders, consulting a sorcerer is a necessity when misfortune strikes, whether a sudden death, a failed harvest, or unexplained illness. Yet with power comes fear. The threat of witchcraft hangs over the community like a dark cloud. Breeding suspicion and tension, accusations of sorcery are serious and often explosive. When someone is suspected of practicing black magic, social order trembles. Families can be torn apart, and the accused may face harsh punishments, exile, public shaming, or worse, this fear enforces conformity, controlling behavior through the invisible but ever-present danger of magical retribution. The belief in sorcery also serves as a form of social justice. It acts as a warning against wrongdoing, a force that punishes betrayal, jealousy, or harm within the community. Magic becomes a silent law, one that cannot be seen but is deeply felt. This system of fear and power governs relationships, influencing every interaction from marriage negotiations to disputes over land. Underneath the Trobriand Islanders' vibrant festivals and open rituals lies this tense undercurrent of suspicion and awe. Magic is the unseen thread that connects life and death, health and illness, harmony and conflict. It reveals a world where power is fragile and invisible, yet deadly real. From the shadows of sorcery, the islanders' strict taboos and punishments emerge, rules that bind the community tightly, enforced by both belief and fear. In the Trobriand Islands, taboos are more than simple rules. They are sacred laws that govern every aspect of life with uncompromising strictness. These invisible boundaries shape behavior, setting limits on what can be eaten, whom one can touch, and how people must act within the community. Breaking a taboo is not just a social misstep. It is a violation of cosmic order, inviting severe consequences that blend physical punishment with spiritual danger. Food taboos, for instance, dictate not only what is consumed, but may eat certain meals and when. Certain animals are forbidden, or only allowed during specific ceremonies. Violating these dietary laws risks more than sickness. It threatens the harmony between humans and the natural world, risking the anger of ancestral spirits. This fear keeps the community aligned with tradition, preserving a delicate balance that outsiders might find harsh or bewildering. Sexual conduct is tightly controlled through taboos that regulate relationships and behavior. Forbidden unions carry not just social shame, but spiritual peril. Punishments for such transgressions can include public humiliation or exile, acts meant to cleanse the community and warn others. These strict rules enforce the matrilineal system, protecting lineage and property, but they also impose a rigid framework that controls desire and personal freedom. Punishments in Trobriand society often blend the physical with the spiritual. A taboo breaker might face beatings or confinement, but more importantly, they risk spiritual retaliation, curses, illness, or misfortune believed to be caused by offended ancestors or sorcerers. The community's fear of these invisible punishments ensures compliance, as the cost of defiance is both immediate and long-lasting. These extreme measures serve as the islanders' way of maintaining order in a world where tradition is survival. The fragility of their isolated society depends on everyone respecting these laws, keeping social bonds strong and preventing chaos. To outsiders, these punishments may seem brutal, but within the Tocharian worldview, they are essential protections for the community's physical and spiritual health. From these strict taboos springs the unique and complex role of women in Tocharian culture, a force of power and mystery that shapes the islanders' identity in surprising ways. Women in the Tocharian Islands hold a position of profound importance, a power that flows through the tribe's matrilineal lines and fertility rituals. Their role goes beyond motherhood. Women are the keepers of lineage, the anchors of inheritance, and the central figures in ceremonies that sustain the life of the community. Yet, this power is wrapped in layers of ritual mystery, some of which reveal a complex mix of reverence and strict control. From a young age, girls are introduced to customs that mark their passage into womanhood with rites that may seem unsettling. These rituals often involve symbolic acts tied to fertility and purity, emphasizing their future role as bearers of life and keepers of the tribe's continuity at times. These ceremonies include isolation, tests of entrance, or secret teachings, meant to prepare them for adult responsibilities. The intensity of these customs speaks to how vital women's roles are and how tightly their power is bound to tradition. Women's control over land and inheritance further sets the Tocharian society apart. Property and status pass through the female line, granting women an authority rarely seen in other tribal cultures. This matrilineal system places women at the center of social and economic life. Yet their influence is often exercised behind the scenes, cloaked in ritual and social expectation. Despite their power, women live within a framework that demands obedience to customs that can be restrictive or even harsh. Their lives are governed by taboos that regulate behavior, sexuality, and social interactions. These restrictions highlight a tension between the respect given to women and the ways their power is carefully controlled to preserve social order. In the Tocharian world, women embody a blend of mystery, strength, and vulnerability, a force that shapes the tribe's identity in profound ways. Their lives are a constant negotiation between freedom and tradition, power and restraint. The Tocharian Islanders live at a crossroads between ancient tradition and the modern world. Despite the pressures of outside influence, missionaries, globalization, and shifting economy, their most secretive and bizarre customs persist, quietly resisting change. These rituals, some shocking and extreme, remain woven into the community's daily life, a living legacy that anchors identity and purpose amid an evolving landscape. Modern tools and ideas have altered many aspects of Tocharian society, yet the core beliefs about fertility, magic, death, and social order endure. Sacred dances still pulse with the energy of old gods, while taboos govern behavior with the same fierce discipline as centuries ago. Even accusations of sorcery, with their fearful punishments, continue to surface, revealing the deep-rooted power of belief in the unseen. The islanders have adapted rituals to fit new circumstances. Some ceremonies incorporate Christian elements or respond to legal changes, yet the essence remains untouched. This blend of old and new creates a fragile balance, where cultural survival depends on secrecy and selective openness. Many practices remain hidden from outsiders, their true meanings guarded like precious treasures. This persistence speaks to more than stubbornness. It reveals a society deeply connected to its past, where bizarre and extreme rituals are not relics, but vital threads in a living tapestry. These traditions provide a sense of belonging, control, and identity in a world that often feels unpredictable and threatening. They are a reminder that for the Tocharian Islanders, power lies in the mysterious, the sacred, and sometimes the disturbing. As these ancient customs quietly endure, They invite reflection on the resilience of culture and the human need to find meaning beyond the surface. The story of the Trobriand Islanders is far from over. Its mysteries continue to challenge outsiders and reveal a world where the past and present dance in uneasy harmony. The Tsotan people are the last living nomads of Siberia, their lives woven tightly with the rhythm of the reindeer they herd for centuries. These guardians of the taiga have wandered the frozen forests, relying on their animals for food, clothing, and survival. The bond between the Tsotan and their reindeer is not merely practical, it is sacred, bound by ancient beliefs that give these animals a power beyond the physical. The reindeer are seen as more than beasts. They are spirits, guides between worlds, and keepers of life's fragile balance. Life in the Siberian taiga is harsh beyond imagination. Winters last for months with temperatures plunging well below freezing, and the vast wilderness offers little mercy. Isolation shapes every aspect of the Tsotan existence, carving out a culture where survival depends on obeying unwritten rules. Older than memory, this isolation has bred strange customs, rituals that to outsiders may seem cruel or bizarre, yet to the Tsotan are vital threads in the fabric of their being. Among these customs is a deep reverence mixed with fear for the spirits that inhabit the land. The Tsotan believe that every reindeer carries a spirit, force, or guardian soul that must be respected or risk bringing misfortune. Their survival depends not only on tending herds, but on keeping this spiritual harmony intact. Any sign of disrespect toward the reindeer or the land is said to invite disaster, whether it be illness, a harsh winter, or the loss of a precious animal. Beneath the calm surface of this tribe lies a world where the physical and the spiritual collide violently. But Tsotan's ancient rituals are often harsh, involving sacrifices and ceremonies meant to appease spirits or restore balance when it is broken. These rites are born of fear as much as faith, a reminder of how fragile life is when surrounded by relentless cold and unforgiving wilderness. The Tsotan are not just herders, but warriors against time and change. Their customs are shield against a world moving too fast. The secrets they guard go far beyond reindeer and survival they hold. The key to a lost way of life where man, animal, and spirit are intertwined. This is a world where every breath is a prayer, and every step taken in the taiga echoes with ancient power as the harsh winds blow through the Siberian forests. The Tsotan continue their timeless dance with nature and spirit, their stories etched in frost and fire. These nomads live at the edge of existence, where the wild reigns and every moment holds the weight of life and death. From this profound bond with the reindeer springs the fierce rituals of the Tsotan shamans, the keepers of the tribe's darkest mysteries and spiritual power. Tsotan shamans stand as the bridge between the living and the dead, wielding power that shapes the fate of the entire tribe. In the endless Siberian wilderness, where spirits are said to roam freely through the snow and trees, shamans are the only ones who dare to cross the boundary between worlds. Their role is not simply to heal or guide, but to command forces invisible and dangerous spirits that can either protect or destroy. The shaman's rituals are intense and unsettling, designed to open doors to the spirit realm. Entering a trance is the first step, often induced by rhythmic chanting, wild drum beats, and the sharp smell of burning herbs. In these altered states, shamans lose themselves, their voices twisting as they speak to unseen entities. The tribe watches in silent awe and fear, knowing that these ceremonies summon powers no ordinary human should confront. Blood sacrifice is a core part of these rites, whether from reindeer or, in rare cases, the shamans themselves. The offering of blood is believed to feed the spirits and secure their favor. The sight of the red liquid dripping into the frozen earth is both a warning and a prayer. Reminder that the balance between life and death is fragile and costly. This sacrificial blood is thought to strengthen the shaman's connection to the other world, granting visions and messages that shape the tribe's decisions. Body markings and tattoos form another eerie aspect of the shaman's power. Symbols, carved or inked onto their skin, act as spiritual armor, each mark a talisman to protect against malevolent spirits encountered during their journeys. These markings also signal the shaman's status, their scars telling stories of battles fought on a plane invisible to others. The physical pain endured during these rituals is both a trial and a testament to their unwavering commitment. Yet the journey between worlds takes a heavy toll. Shamans often return from their trance-like states changed, haunted by visions, their bodies weakened and their minds burdened by the weight of what they have seen. Some bear permanent scars, both physical and mental, as evidence of their dangerous task. The line between sanity and madness is thin, and many shamans live with this precarious balance every day. The tribe's respect for these spiritual warriors is profound, mixed with a deep-rooted fear of the power they wield. Shamans hold the key to the tribe's survival, controlling the unseen forces that govern fate in the harsh taiga. Their ceremonies are not just rituals, but battles against death and darkness, fought on the edge of human endurance. These terrifying spiritual journeys set the stage for the harsh punishments and laws that govern. Certain life, where the consequences of breaking sacred rules can be as unforgiving as the frozen wilderness itself. Among the Certain, law and order are not upheld by written codes or formal courts, but by the relentless force of nature. The harsh Siberian taiga serves as both judge and executioner, where punishment is carved into the very fabric of survival, in a world where the cold can claim life within hours. Breaking the tribe's rules risks more than shame, it risks death. Exile is the most severe sentence. To be cast out from the warmth of the tribe and the safety of one's reindeer herd is to face a brutal sentence of solitude and starvation. The frozen wilderness offers no mercy. Alone, an offender must confront howling winds, deep snow, and predators lurking in the shadows. This punishment is not just physical, it is a psychological terror. Its slow unraveling as isolation gnaws at the mind, leaving the condemned trapped between fear and despair. Loss of reindeer is another grim consequence. Reindeer are the lifeblood of the Certain, providing food, clothing, and transport. To lose access to these animals is to lose identity and means of survival. Without reindeer, an individual becomes vulnerable to the unforgiving elements, cut off from the tribe's lifeline. This form of punishment reinforces the delicate balance between dependence and discipline, showing how survival is a communal effort that cannot tolerate betrayal. Discipline within the tribe is strict and absolute, born from necessity rather than cruelty. Every member knows that the harshness of their environment demands obedience and respect for tradition, rules that outsiders might see as severe for the Certain. Essential tools to protect the fragile thread of life amid the icy vastness. The threat of nature itself enforces these punishments with brutal efficiency. The cold does not discriminate. It shows no mercy for weakness or defiance. In this place, survival is a constant battle, and the tribe's harsh discipline reflects an ancient understanding that order is the only shield against the chaos of the wilderness. This unforgiving justice system, intertwined with the land's dangers, shapes the Certain's identity. It molds a society where every action carries weight, where consequences are swift, and where the harshness of nature teaches the deepest lessons. From this crucible of survival rises a complex web of rituals and beliefs, revealing the tribe's fierce determination to endure. The severity of these punishments leads into the tribe's most profound and disturbing ritual sacrifices made to honor the spirits and keep the balance between life and death. At the heart of Certain life lies the ritual of reindeer sacrifice, a ceremony as old as the taiga itself, where life is exchanged for life in a raw and yielding dance with nature. This brutal offering is not a mere act of killing, but a sacred pact between the tribe and the spirits that govern the frozen wilderness. To the Tsotan, each reindeer carries a spirit that must be honored through sacrifice to secure the tribe's survival through the merciless seasons ahead. The ceremony is governed by strict rules passed down through generations, each step carefully observed to maintain balance and respect. The chosen reindeer is not killed hastily or without ceremony. It is selected for its strength and spirit, its fate woven into the tribe's collective will. Every movement during the ritual howdah, Nef, is held. The direction of the cut, the placement of the animal's body carries symbolic meaning. This precision is meant to appease the spirits, ensuring that the sacrifice is accepted and that the tribe remains protected. Emotion runs deep in this ceremony. The act of taking a life weighs heavily on the community, binding them through shared grief and reverence. The reindeer is not just an animal, but a life force that has nurtured the tribe, now returned to the earth to feed the spirits and guarantee renewal. Tears and solemn silence accompany the ritual, underscoring the painful truth of existence in the taiga that survival demands sacrifice. The blood spilled during the sacrifice is sacred, believed to carry the power of the reindeer's spirit back to the land. This blood fertilizes the earth, feeds the spirits, and sustains the endless cycle of life and death that governs the Tsotan world in this act. The tribe accepts the harsh reality that life is fragile and interconnected, bound by forces both seen and unseen. This relationship reveals a harsh truth about the Tsotan. As existence, reverence and cruelty coexist in a delicate balance. The tribe's survival depends on respecting and honoring the life they take, never treating the reindeer as mere beasts, but as spiritual partners in a constant struggle against nature's indifference. The ritual of reindeer sacrifice stands as a testament to the tribe's fierce connection to the land and its spirits. It is a raw, unfiltered expression of humanity's oldest and most difficult truth that life must be given so life can continue. From this sacred exchange emerges the tribe's view of death and the afterlife, a belief system shaped by the icy landscape and the ever-present spirits guiding every step. For the Tsotan, death is not a final farewell, but a passage into a frozen, mysterious realm where the soul begins a new journey. In the West Siberian wilderness, where ice and snow stretch endlessly, the afterlife is imagined as a continuation of life's harsh struggle and existence bound by spirits and the relentless cold. This belief shapes their rituals, revealing a chilling acceptance of mortality that echoes the unforgiving landscape around them. Burial customs among the Tsotan are stark and haunting. Rather than burying their dead in the ground, bodies are often left exposed to the elements laid upon the earth or hung from trees. This practice allows the soul to be released naturally, carried by the wind and the spirits that roam the taiga. The freezing temperatures preserve the body, turning death into a slow transformation rather than sudden disappearance. This method reflects a deep connection to nature, where death returns the body to the wilderness it came from. In other cases, ritual ceremonies are performed to guide the departed soul through the treacherous spiritual path. Shamans lead these rites, chanting prayers and making offerings to protect the soul from malevolent forces lurking in the shadows. These ceremonies blur the line between the living and the dead, with the shaman acting as a guardian who ensures safe passage across an icy divide. The fear of restless spirits and the unknown powers of the afterlife weighs heavily on the tribe, reinforcing the importance of these sacred rituals. The Tsotan's view of death is both raw and sobering, a reflection of a people who live daily with the constant threat of nature's cruelty. Their acceptance is not passive resignation, but a fierce understanding that life and death are woven tightly together in an endless cycle. Mortality is ever present, shaped by the environment's unforgiving laws and the belief in spirits that govern existence beyond the visible world. This profound relationship with death and the afterlife anchors the tribe's identity, influencing how they live, suffer, and survive. It is a world where every breath, every sacrifice, and every loss echoes through the frozen silence, binding the living to the spirits that walk among them. From these chilling beliefs emerges the fragile yet unyielding resilience of the Totemic, people forever caught between the harshness of nature and the mysteries of the spirit world. The Totemic stand at a crossroads between ancient tradition and a rapidly changing world. Their way of life, shaped by centuries of isolation and harsh survival, now faces unprecedented threats. Climate change is reshaping the Siberian taiga. Melting ice and altering migration patterns of the reindeer that are central to their existence. These environmental shifts ripple through the tribe's rituals and daily life, undermining the very foundation of their culture. Beyond nature's changes, the Totemic must also contend with the encroachment of modern governments and outside influences. Policies aimed at assimilation or resource control disrupt their nomadic patterns, forcing some to settle or abandon sacred customs. The intrusion of modern technology and commerce introduces new challenges, pulling younger generations away from the old ways. These pressures erode the delicate balance that Totemic have maintained between man, spirit, and nature for centuries. Yet, within this storm of change, signs of resilience persist. The tribe clings fiercely to its rituals, harsh, extreme, and deeply symbolic as acts of resistance against disappearance. Their ceremonies, sacrifices, and shamanic practices are more than traditions. They are lifelines that connect the Totemic to their ancestors and the spiritual forces they believe sustain life. Each ritual performed is a defiant statement that their identity endures despite external threats. This fragile resilience is a testament to the tribe's adaptability and determination. It reveals a people not simply surviving, but struggling to maintain meaning in a world that threatens to erase them. Their extreme practices, once viewed only as relics of a forgotten age, now stand as powerful symbols of cultural survival and spiritual endurance. Still, the future remains uncertain. The forces of climate, politics, and modernization press relentlessly, and the Totemic face a precarious existence on the edge of extinction. Their story is a haunting reminder of how ancient cultures fight to hold onto their soul in the face of overwhelming change. This delicate balance between survival and collapse underscores that Totemic's ongoing battle, a battle waged not only against nature's harshness, but against time itself. The Tsemboga people dwell high in the rugged mountains of Papua New Guinea, where the land is as wild and untamed as their ancient traditions to outsiders. Their way of life may seem harsh, defined by ritual, sacrifice, and the raw forces of nature, but to the Tsemboga, these are not mere customs. They are the very pulse of existence, the threads that bind family, tribe, and earth in a delicate, often brutal balance. At the heart of Tsemboga life lies fire. Not simply a tool for warmth or cooking. Fire is sacred, an element both feared and revered. It cleanses the land, burns away decay, and signals renewal. Their rituals sound this fiery essence, igniting fierce ceremonies that hold the tribe together, even as they push its members to the edge of endurance. One of the most striking and unsettling of these traditions is the ritual pig hunt known as the Keku. Pigs are more than livestock to the Tsemboga. They represent wealth, status, and spiritual power. These animals are raised for years, carefully nurtured until they become enormous symbols of social prestige. Then, in a violent burst of ceremony, hundreds of pigs are hunted and slaughtered. In a single event, an eruption of blood and sound that reverberates through the valley. This mass slaughter is no mindless act of cruelty. It is a calculated sacrifice meant to restore harmony between the tribe and the earth. The Tsemboga believe That over time, the land's fertility diminishes as the population grows and resources strain. The Keiko hunt resets this imbalance. By offering so many pigs in sacrifice, the tribe cleanses the soil, honors ancestral spirits, and renews the bond between humans and nature. The ritual is brutal, but in its fire and blood. Life begins anew. Such ceremonies reflect the tribe's intense social order, where every act carries weight and meaning. Family ties, leadership, and alliances are all woven through these events. Disputes are settled, debts repaid, and respect earned in the glow of flickering flames and cries echoing through the hills. In this world, life and death exist side by side, to halves of a whole, each dependent on the other. Beneath the raw spectacle lies a deep, often painful awareness of mortality and survival. The Tsemboga live with the knowledge that every breath is borrowed and every act of violence can hold the promise of rebirth. Their rituals, though shocking to many, are not merely spectacle. They are a language of existence, carved into the wild landscape of the highlands. This fierce dance with fire and sacrifice leads to the Keiko, the great hunt that resets the world itself, where destruction gives way to creation in the heart of the tribe's tradition. The Keiko is not just a feast, it is a moment when the entire Tsemboga world is turned upside down and remade. Again, this brutal ritual centers on the mass slaughter of hundreds of pigs, a shocking spectacle of blood, noise, and raw power that marks a time of both destruction and renewal. To witness the Keiko is to see a society lay bare its deepest fears and hopes in a violent, sacred celebration. For years, the Tsemboga nurture their pigs like treasures. These animals represent wealth, status, and spiritual connection. When the time for Keiko arrives, the carefully raised herds are hunted down in a frenzy. Their cries mingling with the shouts of men and the crackle of fires. The slaughter is swift, overwhelming, and merciless. Blood spills across the earth, staining the soil in a vivid reminder of life's fragile thread. But this savage scene is far from senseless. The Tsemboga believe the Keiko restores balance to their world over time. As their population grows and guns stretch thin, the land's fertility weakens. The massive sacrifice is an offering to the spirits of the soil, a fiery plea to cleanse and refresh the earth. The ritual blood is thought to nourish the ground, reviving crops and ensuring the tribe's survival through the next season. Beyond its agricultural purpose, the Keiko is a social reset. Tribal tensions, debts, and rivalries are dissolved in the smoke and feast. Enemies reconcile, alliances are reforged, and social status is publicly displayed and renegotiated. The hunt becomes a powerful reminder that survival depends not just on the land, but on the strength and unity of the community. This cycle of destruction and rebirth is both haunting and mesmerizing. It forces the tribe to confront the thin line between life and death, sacrifice and salvation. The Keiko reveals a world where violence is woven into the fabric of survival, where the shedding of blood is necessary to feed the future. In the heart of the highlands, the Keiko is the fiery ritual that resets the world, both brutal and sacred, a fierce act that sustains the Tsemboga through the endless cycles of nature and culture. This violent feast is only the beginning of the punishments and beliefs that keep this society in balance. In the Tsemboga world, justice is not a quiet affair behind closed doors. It is a public display of power and order, where punishments are harsh, deliberate, and meant to send a clear message to the entire tribe. In a society so tightly bound to survival, any threat to balance, whether through theft, betrayal, or disrespect, is met with swift and often brutal consequences. Punishments among the Tsemboga are deeply ritualized. Offenders may face violent beatings, forced labor, or the loss of valuable pigs. Punishments that strip away not just wealth but honor. The act of punishment itself is a form of social cleansing. designed to restore harmony and remind everyone of the fragile ties that hold the tribe together. It is a world where mercy is rare, and forgiveness is earned through obedience and restitution. One of the most chilling aspects of Tsemboga justice is the threat of social exile. To be cast out is to be cut from the tribe's lifeblood, the shared land, protection, and support that makes survival possible. Exile means isolation in a harsh environment, a sentence often worse than physical punishment. The fear of being banished keeps many in line, reinforcing the tribe's strict code of behavior. The punishments serve a deeper purpose beyond retribution. They are vital to maintaining balance not just within the tribe, but between the people and the spirits they believe govern their world. Disrupting this balance could invite disaster, crop failure, illness, or violent conflict. Each punishment is a reminder that every individual's actions ripple outward, affecting the entire community. This justice system reflects the tribe's harsh reality, where survival hinges on order, respect, and control. The punishments may shock outsiders, but within the Tsemboga's cultural logic, they are necessary acts of protection. They prevent chaos and ensure that the delicate equilibrium between humans, nature, and the spirit world remains unbroken. The Tsemboga live in a world where the line between the living and the dead is then almost invisible. Their spirituality is woven deeply into every moment, every action, governed by powerful ancestors and restless spirits believed to watch over the land and the people. These spirits are not distant or benign, they demand respect, and any sign of neglect or disrespect risks terrifying consequences. Central to Tsemboga belief is the idea that the soil itself is alive, charged with the presence of ancestral spirits who guard the fertility of the land. These spirits hold the tribe's fate in their hands. When the tribe honors them through ritual, the earth yields abundant crops and healthy pigs. But when ignored or insulted, the spirits retaliate with sickness, failed harvests, or even death. This fear of spiritual punishment shapes the emotional heart of Tsemboga life. To avoid such wrath, the Tsemboga perform complex ceremonies designed to appease these powerful forces. Offerings of food, pig blood, and sacred smoke rise into the air, a desperate attempt to soothe the spirit's anger and maintain balance. These rituals are charged with tension and reverence. Every chant, every gesture is laden with the hope of protection and renewal. The emotional weight of these beliefs is immense. Fear, respect, and awe intertwine, creating a powerful psychological grip on the tribe. The spirits are not just stories, but real presences that shape decisions and social order. Disobedience or carelessness risks more than human punishment. It risks the tribe's very survival. This spiritual worldview creates a culture where life and death are inseparable, bound together by invisible forces that demand constant attention. The spirits of the soil are both protectors and enforcers, guiding the Tsemboga through cycles of growth and decay, feast and famine, peace and conflict. Such profound belief drives the intense ceremonies that punctuate Tsemboga life, reminding everyone of their fragile place in a world governed by unseen powers. The rituals that follow, especially the violent and elaborate pig hunts, are not just tradition. They are acts of survival, communication, and respect to the spirits who hold the tribe's fate. Among the Tsemboga, life moves in a relentless rhythm of feasts and conflict, a cycle where celebration and violence are two sides of the same coin. This brutal dance controls the very fabric of their society, ensuring power is maintained and peace is enforced, not through mercy but through ritualized force. The enormous pig feasts, moments of abundance and community, serve as much more than mere celebration. They are displays of wealth, strength, and social standing, where alliances are forged and status is publicly declared. Yet beneath the surface of these joyous gatherings lies an unspoken tension, a readiness for violence that always simmers close to the skin. War and raids erupt when disputes over land, resources, or threaten the tribe's fragile peace. These conflicts are fierce and unforgiving, often resulting in bloodshed that reaffirms power and dominance. But even in warfare, ritual holds sway. The violence is controlled, purposeful, and deeply symbolic. This ongoing cycle of feasting and fighting prevents the eruption of unchecked chaos. Each pig slaughtered at the feast reaffirms the tribe's commitment to order, while each battle resets power dynamics among clans and families. It is a harsh but effective system where the threat of violence keeps alliances strong and social bond is intact. That Tsamboga's society thrives on this delicate balance. Celebration is never purely joyful, and war is never senseless brutality. Instead, they are intertwined forces that shape identity, loyalty, and survival. The tribe's future depends on navigating this brutal cycle with precision and respect. Within this fierce interplay of life and death, of feast and war, the Tsamboga maintain their place in the world, a tribe bound together by the fire of ritual, the weight of tradition, and the harsh realities of survival. This cycle is a testament to a culture where violence and community exist in a fragile, powerful harmony. The ancient rituals of the Tsamboga have not faded into the past. They continue to pulse through the lives of their descendants, shaping identity and community in a rapidly changing world. Despite the pressures of modernization, outside religions, and government influence, many of these traditions endure, stubbornly rooted in the highland soil like the ancient trees surrounding their villages. The Keiko pig feast, with its dramatic sacrifice and renewal, remains a cornerstone of social life. It still binds clans together, marking important moments of alliance, reconciliation, and status, even as new tools and ideas arrive. The deep meaning behind the feast holds strong a reminder that survival depends not only on material resources, but on respect for ancestral ways and the unseen force that govern existence. Punishments and social rules, while sometimes softened, continue to enforce order and protect the fragile balance that has allowed the Tsamboga to thrive for centuries. The fear of spiritual retribution still guides behavior, a powerful force that transcends simple law or custom. These rituals also serve as a living connection to the past, a source of pride and identity. For the Tsamboga, honoring their traditions is a way to preserve the strength and resilience of their people. It is a reminder that culture is not static but a vital, evolving force, shaped by history and adaptable to new challenges. In this enduring legacy, the Tsamboga demonstrate the profound power ritual holds over human behavior and social cohesion. Their story reveals how ancient practices, no matter how strange or brutal they may seem, are woven deeply into the fabric of community and survival. As the Tsamboga continue to walk the line between tradition and change, their rituals remain a fierce testament to the human need for a meaning, order, and connection, fire that will never fully die.